next topic is hooks. You know, one of the things that I've always wondered about when I first started flipping heavy stuff is, do we go in an offset shank like this with a little bend in it, or are we going with a straight shank? And I know you are a strictly straight shank guy.
Absolutely, that's all I use is a straight shank. My hookup ratio is so much better, and one of the reasons why I think it's better is you can see on here where the point of this hook and the line tie, where you're pulling straight up, the point is way out here away from that. Okay. on the straight shank hook, where the offset shank, when you pull straight up from here, the point is in line with that. So I just don't think you have as big a bite out there to get into the fish.
Okay, reaching out to get
right.
Some of the mat.
Now that your plastic lure will slide down more on this hook. It's kind of a give and take process.
Okay.
You know, you have more problem holding your bait up on the hook while you're fishing, but when the fish bites it, you're going to get him almost every time with this, where with this one, my personal deal, I don't have nearly as good of a hookup ratio with the offset.
Plus, with the straight shank, you can snell. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. You can't do it with an offset, but you actually wrap the line around to give the hook a little kick out.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll get into that in a minute, how you actually snell a hook. All right. And I know another thing too is barb size. You flippers like a big a big barb on the hook.
Yep, and a big wide gap on the hook too, is because a lot of times these plastic baits, if you have a wide gap, the plastic bait slides down in here and kind of balls up, and that way you still have more space in there to get into the fish.
What's your most common size? I know it varies from plastic to plastic.
Most of the time I use a 4/0.
Okay.
A 4 or a 5/0.
And the hook manufacturers we should look at?
The one I always use is made by Reaction Innovations. It's called a BMF hook. It's actually, I think, made by Gamakatsu, but for Reaction Innovations, and that's my favorite flipping hook. I don't feel like there's even any other hook to use. Okay,
Reaction Innovations BMF 4/0.
And one of the good things about Reaction Innovations hooks is the top of it is completely sealed. There's no little space in there for your braided line
to get
slip
out of. If it's on one side.
That's a common problem with most hooks. The braid can slide through there, where these are sealed up. So that's a big deal on them
too. Okay. And I know that a lot of the money you've won flipping has mostly been on plastics. You prefer soft plastics over jigs.
Yep. Well, one of the reasons why is it's hard to find a jig that's 1.5 ounces. You can find them up to 1 ounce, but it's 1.5 ounces. And also a jig is bulkier than a compact bait on a hook. Okay. So it's just easier to get through the mat with a small bait and a big weight than a jig with a big skirt on it and everything. It just doesn't shoot through the mat as good.
Okay. In terms of plastics, we've seen tubes, creature baits, crawls. I mean, do you use them all?
Not really. I use the Berkley Chigger Craw. They just come out with it this year.
Okay.
It's pretty much just a crawdaddy with these flappers. Make a real nice action as it falls. They really flap back and forth.
Okay.
And I've used a lot of different baits, and for about a year now, that's about all I use is a Berkley Chigger Craw. Okay. And it's caught them from Florida to New York. So it's just, I think a lot of flipping. I think the bait is a confidence bait, whatever you have confidence in, because it's a lot of it's a reaction bite anyway. So
yeah, these, I mean, we've kind of seen the evolution of these. I mean, we started tubes, and then went to crawls, and then there was this whole creature bait thing, and now we've kind of ended up with this, it's
combination
kind of,
of all.
Yeah, it's kind of a creature with some big flappies on it, and it's got some action when it goes through. It's plenty of plastic and stiffness in there to stay up on your hook.
Yeah, I definitely like something that has a lot of plastic, and in this area was when you stick your hook back into it.
Okay.
Like with a tube being hollow in here, a tube you'll get hung up a lot. Your hook point will pop through the plastic. Something that has a lot of plastic here like this, your hook point will stay in there until that fish bites it, and you set the hook and the hook pops out.
Colors?
Green pumpkin, black and blue, and blue sapphire is about the only three I really. And in practice, I'll just go back and forth between those three, and whichever one I seem to get more bites on. I really don't get real technical with the color.
Rattles? You ever use rattles?
No. Okay. And I know some guys swear by them. I don't use them. I'm not saying they don't work, but just personally, I don't use them.
One last thing, rods and reels. What do you prefer on that?
Almost exclusively, I use a 711 extra heavy action G Loomis rod,
Okay.
and Abu Garcia Revo
Okay.
STX.
Okay.
And like I said, 65-pound spider wire ultracast or the 20 or 25 trilene fluorocarbon that's exclusively that's what I use.
Okay. Sounds good. JT, thanks for having me aboard,
Hey,
man. I
no
appreciate
problem,
it.
man.
I'm gonna get out of the way and let you do a little flipping here.
Cool.
And hopefully this will help the folks out back home.
Good.